What's up, guys? Tom Foolery TV back with another video, and today we're going to be talking about PlayStation State of Play, which they previewed yesterday. And yeah, it's centered around The Last of Us 2, and we got another deep dive into the game in terms of the gameplay and a bit more on how the whole overall game is going to function and play and look. So yeah, let's get into video. So one of the first things I wanted to touch upon is the traversal. So in the State of Play, we got to see a lot of the ways we're going to be traversing throughout the areas in the game. And it's clear to see that these areas are going to be vastly larger. So for an example, in yesterday's gameplay, we saw a horse, which is for more city landscape areas. And then we also saw a boat, and this is going to be for more, flooded terrains. And another interesting one was a rope. So it looks like we'll be rappelling, from higher to lower. So it looks like we're going to be exploring the maps vertically, so that opens up a lot of space for exploration. And even touched upon, depending on if you're on a high level or a lower level, you might, run into certain enemies or totally miss certain enemies just due to your choice of traversal. And I thought that was just very interesting. So it looks like we're going to have a large map and areas to explore throughout this game. One thing they also mentioned is how this game is going to span multiple seasons and climates. So similar to the first game, it's clear that the story is going to cover a span of time. It could be a year, could be longer. It'll be interesting to see where we start with these characters and where they end. Will they be, much older or, similar to the age they are when we start the game? That would be very interesting. But yeah, I find it interesting how we're going to be, exploring different climates and, the different seasons, which is similar to the first. So we could see like winter, we could see summer, spring, and we just see how the character reacts to these different environments, which should be very fun to do. That also links into the variety of locations. They mentioned how there's going to be a variety of locations, both interior and exterior, to explore. So it's not just a building you can just look from the outside and can't go in. These buildings and these environments are going to be tangible into where we can really explore these environments. The next thing I wanted to talk about was the enemy type. So there's the three main enemy types, and that divides into two factions. So we have the first faction would be the WLF, which is the Washington Liberation Front, and they're like a militia group who are highly trained, highly organized, and heavily weaponized. So they kind of carry themselves as an army, basically. So they're a form of like army and heavily weaponized and very organized. And then we have the Zelophites, which is a religious cult. They're also known as the Scars, and these guys are a bit different to the WLF. They are a more stealthy enemy type, and they will be using the terrain as cover, and they kind of utilize more silent weapons like bows and arrows to combat you. So they look like they're going to be a more tricky, sneaky enemy type, ones to look out for. Infected is a threat to all. They did mention that, so it's not going to just be you, the infected, go after. If you're in an area with any of these factions, the infected will attack all, which is very cool. We still have the standard infected. We have the runners. We have the clickers, bloaters. There's a few new ones as well. New stage of infected. They talked about like the stalkers. These are like an enemy that will stalk you and creep up on you and try and attack you when you're least expecting it. There's the shamblers. These are kind of like a brute type who kind of force their way towards you and explode if they get close enough, leaving like a poisonous gas. And the one I'm most intrigued about is one we're yet to see or know the name of, but it sounds like it's going to be one of the more, one of the more, what's the word I'm looking for? One of the more dangerous enemy types in this game, and one we'll probably come across a couple of times in like some very, very epic cinematic set pieces. We'll come across this enemy, but it does sound very, very threatening, and I'm looking forward to seeing how that's implemented into the game. Last but not least, I'd like to just touch upon the gameplay we saw. So after looking at people's responses, a lot of people feel like the gameplay hasn't changed much, or it's not really innovative in any way. To that, I would say yeah, but to be honest, I wasn't expecting much of a change from the gameplay. I thought that the first game played well. I believe because of the time it came out, there were certain refinements and certain polish they couldn't put into that game. But I believe that this is just going to be a more polished, a more refined experience than the first, and I've seen that through the gameplay. So overall, yeah, the gameplay isn't groundbreaking or innovative in any way, but it's going to be refined and polished and to a level of detail that is just going to feel so good to play. So that's actually the thing I'm looking most forward to in this game is the actual gameplay, and I feel like we'll have nothing to worry about that. So yeah, let me know what you guys thought of the state of play from Naughty Dog yesterday. Are you more excited? Are you less excited? Or are you indifferent about what you saw? Just let me know in the comments. But I appreciate you guys for taking the time to check out my video. Tomfoolery TV, we use a fool for not watching. So stay tuned, and I will catch you guys on the next one. Peace.